As you know that in the city of Chicago, basketball is, is very important. It's what it's all about. What I want to get from you is just your knowledge on East Chicago, Roosevelt, EC Central, and I want your best five players from Roosevelt, best five players from Central. Then I want you to recognize one player from each school as the best, and then tell me who you feel like, in your opinion, is the best player that you ever seen come from one of the two schools. So let's start off with East Chicago, Roosevelt, point guard.
Best point guard, East Chicago, Roosevelt, Harry Irvin, hands down. Magician with the basketball. Handle, very, very quickest guy on the floor. Could go to the basket, get his shot off over anybody. But the best thing about Harry's game was he had unlimited range on his jump shot. He was a pure shooter. I mean, he just didn't miss. If you had the three-point shot in 1981, 1982, when Harry was playing at East Chicago, Roosevelt, Harry Irvin would have been unguardable.
Shooting guard.
The best shooting guard, I would have to say, would be Tony Harris. I don't even think it's close. Tony was, someone that I grew up with. I've known him since we were little kids. Tony was a great, great athlete. I mean, he could play baseball, football. He could punt a football. He could throw a football. He could throw a baseball. I mean, he could just do so much. But as a basketball player, he wasn't too far away from where some of the other better players were. But what set Tony apart from everyone else was he had insane athletic ability. He was really quick, and he could jump out the gym, as everyone knows. And that's why I would definitely have to say that he would be my shooting guard. It's not even close.
Small forward.
Small forward. I may get punched for this one, but I'll have to say Arthur Pollard. I'll give him an edge over my childhood friend, Isaac Washington. Everybody know him as Ike. I would say Arthur Pollard, who everyone knows as Bunk. I would have to say him because he was just like Harry Irvin. He could shoot lights out, had unlimited range on his jump shot, and he would have benefited greatly, if the three-point shot had been in effect back during his era. I think Ike was a better scorer than Bunk because Ike had a mid-range game and Ike was a slasher. But I would have to give the edge to Arthur Pollard because of his excellent shooting ability.
So if you had one game and you need a small forward, you're going to take Arthur Pollard over Ike Washington?
Yeah, I would take Arthur Pollard, yes.
Power forward.
Richard Randolph. Richard Randolph, real strong, dark skin, looked very intimidating, but he could also score too. But Richard was a heck of a rebounder, and inside, he was, 6'2", 6'3", somewhere around in there, which was tall on the high school level back in '82 and '83. There was no one strong enough that could defend him or keep him off the glass, So I would definitely have to say that Richard Randolph was the best power forward.
Center.
The best center. Anthony Jones. Everyone knows him as Jux. Really strong. He was a lot like Richard Randolph, was real strong. His dunks used to really make the rim shake. Guys that dunked as hard as Jux were the ones that were the reason that they created the breakaway backboard. I don't know, a lot of you guys remember Daryl Dawkins. Daryl Dawkins shattered a couple backboards because he was dunking so hard, and they eventually went to the breakaway, which took the stress away from the backboard. So when you dunk, the rim would actually flex and give in to the pressure. But Anthony Jones was really good. He could score, but he was really strong, real quick and athletic. And I don't think that any of the other centers were even close to him. Jerome Battle was real good too. They called him Fish. Came out class of '84. Real good scorer in the post. He was real thin though. He wasn't the physical presence that Jux was.
Now let's move to East Chicago Central. As you know, both schools combined 86 87. So I want to get your point guard from EC Central.
The best point guard. I had some debate with someone. The best pure point guard would be Delmar Johnson, but I would have to say that the best point guard, I would have to go with Robert Battle. And I'm looking at statistics too, because Delmar was on a really deep team and his stats weren't inflated. But Robert Battle in 1990 and 91, I think he was the best basketball player on the EC Central squad those 2 years. I remember the regional game when they lost to Glenn Robinson's Gary Roosevelt team. It was either like 2-3 overtimes, but Robert Battle had a really good game, and EC Central would have won that game had they made free throws. But I'm going to go with Robert Coop Battle as the best point guard.
Shooting guard.
The best shooting guard, that's easy, Etwan Moore. I got to see Etwan throughout his career at Central. He started as a freshman, and I believe that he was the leading scorer for 4 years while he was there. But, could shoot, had good speed, great athlete, could jump. But he could definitely put the ball in the basket. And his senior year, when they played North Central in the championship game, although I think Eric Gordon was the better player at that time, that particular game, just for that one game, Etwan Moore was the best basketball player on the court that day.
Small forward.
The best small forward, Carlton Udi Baker. I don't know why I'm sitting here thinking about it, but I got to see Udi play the 2 years he played, which was his junior and his senior year. Udi had that Tony Harris effect. The fans from the visiting team came to see him play, and they wanted to see what Udi was going to do. I remember one game, Udi was a junior, and Udi didn't start his junior year. He came off the bench. They were playing Hammond High, and Udi came in, I guess, later on in the first quarter, and Hammond High had the ball. He blocked Tyree Pearson's shot on one end. So Central came down, and they went in the post to Udi. Udi drop step on Tyree Pearson and gorilla dunked on him, and the gym went crazy. I think Udi had like 5 dunks that game, had about 30 points, but he dominated Pearson. And that one play, those 2 plays set the tone for that whole game, because he was in Tyree Pearson's head for the rest of the game. And Udi did that to a lot of people. Udi intimidated his opponents. I don't mean verbally. I mean just his ability. I mean his opponents feared him because they knew that nobody could guard him.
Power forward.
Chris Woods, Twine. Did all the dirty work, was real strong in the blocks, good rebounder, great scorer down low. He wasn't, we're talking about high school, so he wasn't the typical power forward type, but he had the game like one. And because of his athletic ability, you couldn't find guys in the area that had the size that he had, that was his size, that would be able to guard him down low because of his, he could get off the floor a little bit. He was really quick. He was a hustler, a scrapper, but he was a really good rebounder though. So he definitely did the things that you would need your power forward to do, and he could score.
Center.
The best center, Rick Wright. I got to see Rick play when he was a sophomore, which I really think was his best year, although he had a limited role, but I think that he made his greatest impact as a sophomore. Everybody knows that he had the foot injury and he missed his whole junior season, which I really think hurt him. But then he came back and had a solid senior year, and of course he got a Division I scholarship, and that was pretty much based on what they saw his sophomore year, because he didn't play at all his junior year, and he signed with Villanova right at the beginning of his senior year.
I'm gonna throw some names at you, basketball names. Just give me your quick opinion. Let's start off with Judah Parks.
Judah Parks, athletic, very athletic. Baseball player, football player, could jump out the gym. Judah was one of the best leapers that I saw coming up. I mean, he could really jump. Judah got a chance to play varsity basketball as a freshman, but Judah's senior year, they had a really good team that year. They were like 10, 11 deep. So no one really got 30 shots a game or anything. They really had a balanced attack because they were so talented. But Judah made the Indiana All-Star team and got a full scholarship to Indiana State University. So his talents and his basketball abilities were definitely being noticed by others.
Ajabi Gillis.
Ajabi Gillis. I got to see Jabi for the first time as a sophomore, and his quickness, his leaping ability, his explosion. He was in that Tony Harris category. Athletically, he was in another league. He didn't his junior year. I don't know. He just didn't seem the same. I really noticed in his sophomore year, he was a lot like Rick Wright. I think the same thing happened to Rick Wright. They got the most publicity when they were sophomores, and they had good careers, but I think their sophomore year is what set the tone for their high school careers.
Marcus Jefferson and Corey Stokes.
Marcus Jefferson, I got to see play 1 year, which was his junior year. And then he, of course, left after that, and he went to prep school. But Marcus was real good, nice size, athletic, was quick. He could handle the ball. He could shoot, could slash to the basket, and he had leaping ability. Corey Stokes, same thing. I got to see him play as a junior, and he wasn't the number one option, so he had more like a limited role. I had heard a lot about Corey when he was real young. I didn't get to see him play, but I heard how good he was. But then, of course, his senior year, some people had graduated, and he got a chance to do a little bit more. But Corey Stokes was real good, too.
Okay, give me your best player you ever seen from Roosevelt and the best from Central, and then I want you to give me your best overall.
The best basketball player from East Chicago Roosevelt, I think, was Tony Harris. I'll get more into that because I also think that he was the best basketball player that I saw play. EC Central, it was easy. Etwan Moore was the best basketball player that I saw. 4 years of varsity. Indiana All-Star, had consistent numbers throughout. Could score, was pretty much unguardable on the offensive end. And now he's at Purdue, and he's had a very productive career at Purdue. He's going into his senior year. Purdue's going to be one of the top teams in the country. And if he has another good year, he'll have a very legitimate chance of being drafted in next year's NBA draft. But I would have to say that the greatest player would be Tony Harris that I saw play through my era, and even after I was out of school and watching the kids come up at EC Central. Tony, basketball-wise, there may have been some people that might have been like maybe a little better at some things or right where he was, but I think what set Tony apart was athletically, he was unreal. When I was at Ball State, I met a guy named Rodney Haynes. He was from Newcastle High School, Indiana All-Star class of '86, and we stayed in the dorms together. I was telling some of the Southern Indiana guys about Tony Harris, and one of the guys was like, I know Tony Harris. He said, I went to camp with Tony Harris. He said that I was telling the guys about the way Tony could jump. Rodney Haynes said that Tony Harris jumps like no man he has ever seen. And that says a lot from someone who has played the game of basketball and seen a lot of people. But I think that sums up what I've been saying as far as what Tony Harris was athletically, and I think that's what put him ahead for me above everyone else. And then you have to look at it. Tony went on to have a really good college career, and then he went on to play professional basketball for the Boston Celtics.